Hello, my dear friends. I'm Dr. Wasim I Khan, Assistant Professor, Shri Shivaji Law College, Parbhani, Maharashtra, India. In today's lecture, we will discuss a last part of tort of defamation, that is, defenses and remedies available for the tort of defamation. Okay, what exactly the defenses are available for the tort of defamation we will discuss in this particular lecture. So let's start the defenses for tort of defamation we will discuss in this particular lecture. In the previous lectures we have discussed the essentials of defamation, types of defamation, and the concept of innuendo we have discussed in the previous lectures. This is the fourth part of tort of defamation, in which we will discuss the defenses for defamation. We know very well, initially the onus of proof is on the plaintiff to prove that defendant intended to defame him. Whenever the plaintiff filed a suit for the tort of defamation, the burden of proof lies on the plaintiff initially to prove that the defendant has defamed him. This is the burden of proof lies on the plaintiff initially. If the plaintiff proves the defamatory statement, then defendant can take the available defenses. Suppose if the plaintiff prove all the essential of defamation, now it will be the turn of the defendant, and now defendant can avoid his liability by taking a certain defenses. So what are those defenses? Following are the defenses available for defamation. So we will discuss one by one all the defenses available for the tort of defamation. The first defense available for the tort of defamation is truth or justification. So, if the defendant is able to prove the truth of defamatory statement, he is not liable. So, whatever the statement published by the defendant, if that particular statement is correct one, if that particular statement is true, then he will not be liable for the tort of defamation, and he will be entitled to take the defense of truth or justification. If I says A as thief, and if he is actually punished by the court, then I cannot be liable for the offense of, for the tort of defamation, and I will be entitled to take the defense of truth or justification. So whatever the statement passed by the defendant, if that statement is correct one, he will not be liable. He will be entitled to take the defense, that is truth or justification. There was a case. In that particular case, court punished the offender, and the court imposed a fine of $10, and in default of payment of fine, the judgment of court was the accused has to undergo 14 days in the prison. That was the order of the magistrate. But defendant published in his newspaper that the court has awarded a punishment to the accused with a fine of $10, and in default of payment of fine, he had to undergo a 3 weeks imprisonment. Actually, there was a 14 days imprisonment, that was the order of the court, but the defendant published in his newspaper that court has imposed a fine of $10, and in default of payment of fine, he has to undergo 3 weeks in the prison. So that was the publication, and consequently the plaintiff filed a suit against the defendant. But the defendant took the defense of truth or justification, and court says that actually the accused was punished with a fine of $10, and in default of payment of fine, 14 days imprisonment, but the defendant has published $10. In default of payment of $10, he has to undergo 3 weeks of imprisonment. So this is the criteria only, but court held that it will not affect the truthfulness of the statement, and that's why court held not liable to the defendant. It means the court says that the defendant has a defense, that is a truth or justification. The defendant was having a defense, that is a truth or justification. So truth or justification is a good defense for the tort of defamation. So truth is good defense in civil suit and also criminal action. So the truth or justification is a good defense in the civil suit as well as criminal action. Second defense available for the tort of defamation is fair or bona fide comment. Comment means expression of opinion on a certain facts. If there are facts and if any person expresses opinion on that particular fact, that opinion is supposed to be known as a comment. This defense frequently relied upon the press. So generally, press used to take this defense, fair and bona fide comment. We used to comment on different social media platform. So there is a post, and on that particular post we used to comment. So we are expressing our opinion upon a certain facts, and that's why it comes under the category of comment. And if that comment is a fair, the fair and bona fide comment will be the defense available for the tort of defamation. The comment is said to be fair if it is made for public good. When comment comes under the category of fair, if that comment is made for the public good, then only it comes under the category of fair and bona fide comment, otherwise not. In other words, fair or bona fide comment means honest criticism of matter of public good. If any matter which is having a public importance, and if there is a fair and bona fide comment and there is honest criticism on that particular fact, matter of public good, that particular comment comes under the category of fair and bona fide comment. There are certain examples of fair and bona fide comment. Fair comment includes affairs of the state. If we are criticizing the affairs of the state, our comments comes under the category of fair and bona fide comment. If we are criticizing, if we are commenting on the administration of justice, it comes under the category of fair and bona fide comment. If we are commenting, if we are criticizing any public institution or local authorities, our comment will comes under the category of fair and bona fide comment. Then newspaper, if there is a criticism in the newspaper, that comes under the category of fair and bona fide comment. So the defendant can criticize the novel or cinema or any such article working point out the defect, not a character. Suppose if I am criticizing any novel, my comment will comes under the category of fair and bona fide comment, because I am criticizing the novel. I can criticize the novel. If I dislike any novel, I am having a right to criticize that, and my comment will come under the category of fair and bona fide comment. If I am criticizing any cinema, any movie, my criticism will comes under the category of fair and bona fide comment, and fair and bona fide comment will be the defense available for me. Or any such article. Suppose if I am criticizing any article which is published in any newspaper, my comment will comes under the category of fair and bona fide comment. But I cannot criticize the writer of novel personally. If I will criticize the writer of that novel personally, then fair and bona fide comment, this defense will not be available for me. If I am criticizing the director of any movie personally, my comment will not comes under the category of fair and bona fide comment. If I am criticizing the actor of any movie personally, I will not be entitled to take the defense of fair and bona fide comment. So I cannot criticize the character. I cannot criticize the role. I can criticize the role played by the character, but I cannot criticize the character himself. So this is the defense of fair and bona fide comment. Now the third defense available for the tort of defamation is privilege. There are certain occasions in which a person is free to express his views or publish any statement. There are certain occasions in which the person is free to publish any kind of statement without fear of defamation. And if the person is enjoying such privilege, it is called a defense available for the tort of defamation. So the defendant on such an occasion is said to have been privileged. So this occasion, the defendant is said to have been privileged. So the first type of privilege is absolute privilege. If the person has absolute privilege to make any statement without any fear of defamation, so though it is false and malicious. Though the statement which is published by me is false and malicious, and I am having no fear of defamation, it means I am enjoying absolute privilege. There is no fear of defamation in the mind of mine, and if I am publishing any statement in such a condition, though that statement is a false and malicious, and if I am making a statement fearlessly, it means I am enjoying an absolute privilege. So who can enjoy the absolute privilege? The first example of absolute privilege is parliamentary proceeding. So member of parliament under article 105 subclause 2 and state legislature under article 194 subclause 2 of the constitution enjoys absolute privilege. So member of parliament, member of legislative assemblies are enjoying the absolute privilege. So whatever the statement published by the MPs and MLAs in the parliamentary proceeding, they can publish any kind of statement without fear of defamation. They will not be held liable for the tort of defamation for any statement, though that statement is malicious one, though that statement is a false one, but they will not be liable for that because they are enjoying the absolute privilege. Next one is judicial proceeding. So no action for libel or slander lies against judges, counsel, witness or parties for the words written or spoken in judicial proceeding maliciously out of ill will against the person defamed. So in this slide, the spelling of libel is not correct. The spelling of libel is L-I-B-E-L. So if in the judicial proceeding, if the judges, advocates, witnesses or any person in the judicial proceeding makes any statement, though that statement is a defamatory, though that particular statement is a malicious one, though that particular statement is a false one, but they will not be held liable for the tort of defamation because all the person in the judicial proceedings are enjoying a absolute privilege. Jagannath Prasad versus Rafat Ali Khan. In this case, plaintiff was examined as a defense witness in court presided by the defendant. In this case, the defendant was a judge and the plaintiff was a witness of the defense. And in course of examination, the defendant said the plaintiff dishonest, liar and foolish. So while recording the examination of the witness, the judge, who is a defendant in this case, said the plaintiff as foolish, liar, dishonest. So these all are the words, these all words comes under the category of defamatory one, and it was found that the magistrate used those words to degrade the plaintiff, and it was found that the intention behind using that particular word was to degrade the plaintiff. But the judge has made that particular statement in the judicial proceeding, and that's why judge took the defense of absolute privilege judicial proceeding, and the court says that yes, the defense of judicial proceeding or absolute privilege is available for the defendant, and court held not liable to the defendant. Third absolute privilege is state communication. Officer, through a confidential report or communication by public office. If there is a communication between two public offices, if the confidential report shared by one office to the another one, in that particular, if a defamatory statement is used, that particular officer who wrote that particular confidential report will not be held liable for the tort of defamation because he is enjoying absolute privilege that comes under the category of state communication. So this is also a defense available. Second privilege is a qualified privilege. Qualified privilege exists only when the defendant makes his statement honestly and carefully. Suppose if I am making a statement honestly and carefully, then the defense of qualified privilege will be available for me. For example, if the creditor who makes a statement about debtor financial position to another creditor, suppose if I am the creditor and if I credited certain amount to a debtor and the same debtor comes to you and approach you for taking the loan, and you inquire about the financial position of that debtor to me, and if I have made a honest statement, if my statement is like that, the debtor is having not good financial position, but he used to default in payment of installments, and on the basis of my information, if you denied the loan to that particular person, that debtor cannot file a suit against me, and if he filed a suit against me, I will be entitled to take the defense of qualified privilege. Why? Because I have provided the honest information to the other creditor about the financial position of debtor. Another example is that if a master or principal provides a true and correct information of his servant. Suppose if the master provides a correct information of his servant to someone, and if the statement made by the master is a correct one, But servant cannot file a suit against me for the tort of defamation because I have made a statement which is honest one and I was enjoying a qualified privilege. So I will not be entitled, I will not be held liable for the tort of defamation. I can take the defense of qualified privilege. So this is the second example of qualified privilege. So these are the particular defenses for the tort of defamation which we have discussed. I hope you understand this topic. If you understand this topic, please subscribe my channel, hit the notification button, hit the like button and share this video with your friends. Thank you very much.